tools and all that you need, as he's been doing and has been doing, and will continue to do in a special way that only he knows how.
All right, all right. Hello, y'all. All right, so today's message is going to be about transition. I know a lot of us are in different phases of transitions in our lives, something that we're all going through. So I believe this is why he led me to have this discussion. It's just going to be a discussion so we can see how transitions work, a few examples in the word, and then how that impacts our lives as we go through the different transitions that we're in. All right? Hit the button.
Transition.
Actually, I'm not transitioning. That's the problem. Here's a setup. All right. All right, the rules. Please raise your hand and ask a question. Wait to be called. This the important part. Y'all good at the first part, raising your hands. Wait to be called on before you answer, as there are hands raised in the room as well as online. So please keep your question comment on track with today's lesson. You will have 60 seconds to answer the question or to make your statement. If you go past 60 seconds, Caleb will mute you. It is not personal. It is just to give the teacher enough time to finish the lesson. The lessons are recorded and must be kept within a certain amount of time. The lesson is mixed with discussion to help build one another up. Please do not abuse the time. All right, we got that out the way. All right, so I know exactly how it's going to go today. All right. So when you hear the word transition, this is an open question to everybody in the room and online. So when you hear the word transition, what do you think of? We have a hand in the room.
Lamad. Okay.
That's the part about waiting to be called.
I did. I said Lamad.
No. See, I told y'all that's how it's going to go. I told y'all. Lamad, answer the question, please.
Simply, I would say just going from one place to another place.
Yep. Anybody else? Who first? Naaman, go ahead.
Shalom, Aki. A transition is not only going from one place to another place. It's a transition can be an evolving. You're evolving from what you once were into a different person.
Okay, that works. Who else was online? Yakaria, go ahead.
Shalom. I was going to say progress, growth, and change.
Okay, and in the room?
Going through phases.
Going through phases. All right, good. I didn't warrant Rabbi Google giving us the answer. No. No, it's all right. It's okay. I understand. It's all right. Daru, what you got?
I have crossing over.
Yes. You don't give us your opinion. You give us the internet's opinion, but you do it quickly. Crossing over. Good. All good answers. All right. So this is one I thought my Ak was going to tell me, but he hates me, so it's okay. Transition: a change or shift from one state, subject, or place to another. For example, a peaceful, orderly transition of power, or the actor's transition to directing, the patient's transition from the hospital to home, from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which I didn't want to look up online for me. It's okay. I understand. All right. Second definition is a period or a phase in which such a shift is happening. For example, non-REM sleep, which normally comprises the transition between waking and REM sleep. Both those definitions came from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. All right. So just a few ways that we see transitions in the word, some examples where you see things transitioning. Before I put the ones I'm going to discuss, can anybody think of some different clues that we could see somebody might be going through a transition when they think about the word? We got a question in the front. Answer in the front.
Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Okay. Now, Amana, give me an example of how you know someone might be going through a transition.
A person might be going through a transition is because they're no longer doing harmful things. They have changed their lives. In other words, they've come out of the world and now walking into the marvelous light of the Father.
Okay, so the actions, the thinking might change. And who else was next? Liara? Go ahead, Akuti.
I think I misunderstood the question, but my original response was seeing Jacob go from Jacob to Yashral or Israel.
Okay, that's a good example.
I was gonna say King Daoud. You see him go from son of Jesse to soldier to sovereign.
Okay. Go ahead, Abu.
I would think growth would be a good example of a transition.
Okay. All right. Now, Mana, what else you got?
Also, I was also thinking of Shaul, how he was persecuting the Hebrews into doing the Father's work.
Okay. All right. So the three things that we're going to see today are a role change or a change in your title. You might see a name change, and you might see a change in attitude or belief. Again, this is not an exhaustive list. There's other ways you see, but in the scripture, you might see these three things happening, which could signify that somebody's going through some sort of transition. All right. So let's take a look at some examples of a name change. Genesis 15, 3-6, and then 18 to 21. And Abram said, behold, you have given me no offspring, and a member of my household will be my heir. And behold, the word of Yahuah came to him. This man shall not be your heir. Your very own son shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, look towards heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. And then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And he believed Yahuah, and he counted it to him as righteousness. We're all familiar with that. So moving down to 18. On that day, Yahuah made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your offspring I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. All right, so Abram is given a promise of what will happen. Right? And then you look at Genesis 17, 1-7. When Abram was 90 years old, Yahuah appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be blameless, that I may make my covenant between me and you, and may multiply you greatly. Then Abram fell on his face. And Elohim said to him, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you the nations, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout the generations for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim to you and to your offspring after you. So this is where we see a name change. He went from Abram to Abraham. We have a question or a statement in the room. Go ahead.
So just, as we look at some of the things, because a lot of us have name changes, and we believe the Father gave us these name changes. So, one of the things that when I read this here, it talks about, I always think about, him walking in the name change. So sometimes we have to consider, or revisit a lot of times in our lives that when our names, we have this new name that we believe God give us, are we walking in that new name or that name change? And have we changed into that new name?
All right, so he went from I shall, or a future event back when he was Abram, to I have, or it's already done, now that he's Abraham. As he transitions from one point of the covenant promise to the next, Yahuah changed Abram's names, like Moray just said. Perhaps similar to the way we may choose a new name as we commit to walk on this path. So there's a connection there. It's not just a matter of picking the name, right? So a lot of us, I need a Hebrew name. but I got to walk the Hebrew walk, right? It's not just a matter of choosing a new name just for the sake of choosing a new name. I think that name sounds good, but give some consideration to what that name might mean as you choose it, because once you choose it and apply it to yourself, you have to walk it out. All right, see another example of a name change. Genesis 17, 15 through 17. And Elohim said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah. Sarah shall be her name. I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. Kings of peoples shall come from her. Then Abram fell on his face and laughed and said to himself, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? A couple things I wanted to point out here. Notice how quickly Abraham referred to Sarah by her new name. He didn't wait. Within that same conversation, he switched it up. You gave her a new name? Okay, that's it. That's the name I'm going with. He didn't hesitate, right? So when you're directly instructed and you get clarity that the Most High has a change for you, don't hesitate to walk into it, all right? And also notice, again, how the name change was tied to her function for Yahuah. He's not just changing the name. He's going to do something through her. That's what led to the name change. I'm going to give you a son by her. She has a function. Now her function is to give Abraham a son. And he shall become nations, and kings of peoples shall come from you. That's why I changed you. Go ahead, Aki.
So quick question, does anyone know Sarai, the name what Sarai means and what Sarah means? Because it shows a shift from one name to the next name.
We got a hand in the front. Go ahead, Aki.
So I was reading this the other day. Well, Sarai means my princess, and Sarah means princess of many or princess of nations.
So the first one's correct. The second one is a noble woman.
Want to expound on that at all? You good? All right, so I touched on this briefly before, but when it has been made known to you, your new name ties directly to your function for Yahuah. Do not delay in walking in that function. And remember, it's not about the name, it's about the function. The change was for Yahuah's purpose, not our vanity. It's not just, I picked the name, that name sounded good, right? It's a role that has to fulfill that name. So be mindful of that. All right, so another thing you'll see is a change in someone's belief, right? And this is an example that was mentioned. All right, let's take a look at Acts 9, and we're going to go from 1 to 18. All right, Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of Yahushua, went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any belonging to the way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. Now, as he went on his way, he approached Damascus, and suddenly a light from heaven shone around him, and falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, who are you, master? And he said, I am Yahushua, whom you are persecuting. But rise and enter the city, and you will be told what you are to do. But the men who were traveling with him stood speechless, hearing the voice, but seeing no one. So Saul rose from the ground, and although his eyes were opened, he saw nothing. So they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And for 3 days he was without sight, and neither ate nor drank. All right, so how would we describe Saul from verses 1 through about 7? What would we say about this guy? You could read the first sentence. That'll tell you something about him. It's not a trick question. I don't do trick questions. It don't count. You ain't say it in the mic. No, that's not what you said. Say what you said in the mic. I didn't have my hand raised. You did. You had it raised over your mouth and whisper to yourself. Now say it in the mic.
I said he was a murderer.
A murderer of who?
The disciples of Yahushua.
Okay, thank you. Joshua, what you got for us?
I would say for the first couple verses, he was very exalted, high, proud, lifted up, zealous. And then verse 7, he was humbled.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So again, he was a murderer. He's persecuting a specific group of people, right? Okay. So now he gets to Damascus and his eyes are closed. He's without sight. And for 3 days, he was without sight and neither ate nor drank. And now there was a taught one at Damascus named Ananias. Yahushua said to him in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Here I am, master. And Yahushua said to him, Rise and go to the street called Straight, and at the house of Judas look for a man of Tarsus named Saul. For behold, he is praying. And he's seen in a vision a man named Ananias come in and lay his hands on him so that he might regain his sight. But check out Ananias' answer. He said, Master, I've heard from many about this man, how much evil he has done to your set-apart ones at Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priest to bind all who call on your name. So what Saul's doing, is it just between him and the Most High? Or do other people know about it? Other people know about it, right? He's displayed a certain type of action, a certain type of being, a certain type of character, right? So be mindful of that. Your character will go before you, and your name and deeds will be tied together, right? However, that doesn't mean you have to stay that way, right? All right, some of us here have past that we're not too proud of. We have past that we wouldn't want people to know about, right? Some of us have been in a position where our past are made known and people look at us like, I know he's not in the walk no more. He did such and such, X, Y, Z, right? But that shouldn't stop you from what Saul's going to do next, right? Master, I've heard about this man, how much evil he has done to your set-apart ones at Jerusalem, and here he has authority from the chief priest to bind all who call on your name. But Yahushua said to him, so whose opinion is going to matter? The people that judge you from your past? Yahushua, right? So Ananias sees things one way, Yahushua sees things another way, but Yahushua is about to win out. All right? Yahushua said to him, Go, for he's a chosen instrument of mine to carry my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him how much he must suffer for the sake of my name. So Ananias, perhaps, not wanting to, perhaps joyfully, but he did what he was told. Ananias departed and entered the house. And laying his hands on him, he said, Brother Saul, Yahushua, who appeared to you on the road by which you came, has sent me so that you may regain your sight and be filled with the Ruach HaKodesh. And immediately something like scales fell from his eyes, and he regained his sight. And then Saul did what? What's the role of the immersion? What does it signify? Belief in what? Go ahead, Aki.
Belief in Yahushua.
Belief in Yah. But wait. Who was he out there killing?
Believers of Yahushua.
Oh, man, ain't that something? I would say that would be an example of a change, right? I think that would be. Now, Mana, go ahead.
Tada, so that's a transition. He's going from one. He's going from one action to another, from one extreme to another. He's going actually from a negative to a positive.
So he's going from one way of believing to a whole other, right? And like you said, this was for the positive. All right. So Saul went from being someone who persecuted those who believed to actually being a believer himself. He became the thing that he once despised, a total 180-degree turn, like the exact definition of teshuv, right? Did a 180. Notice verse 15. Again, we see that the transition was made for whose benefit? Oh, okay. So it wasn't a change to help Saul out, right? Saul had a role to fill. Yahushua said to him, Go. Why? He is a chosen instrument of who? Chosen instrument of Yahuah. So, but did he just choose him just because? He chose him to fulfill a function. He's to carry my name before the Gentiles and the kings and the children of Israel, right? So when we go through these transitions, it's not about us. Remember that. It's not about us. All right, so let's look at another example of somebody having a change in belief. All right, let's take a look at Luke 18 chapter, verses 18 to 24. A ruler asked him, Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And Yahushua said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good except Yahuah alone. You know the commandments. Do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not bear false witness, honor your father and your mother. We all are familiar with this story, right? But some things I would like to point out, though. And he said, all these I have kept from my youth. And when Yahushua heard this, he said to him, one thing you still lack. Sell all that you have and distribute to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. But when he heard these things, he became very sad, for he was extremely rich. Yahushua, seeing that he had become sad, said, how difficult it is for those who have wealth to enter the kingdom of Elohim. Let's take a look at 22. He's supposed to sell that he have and do what with it? Give it to the kings and the priests, and give it to the poor, right? We talked about this before last time in one of my other lessons about how we are Yahuah in the earth, right? When he needs things done, he's going to use us to do it, right? So this guy had a chance to be directly used by the Most High, and it saddened him when he was asked what to do, right? So he went from, I'm going to follow you, I'll follow your commandments, to, ooh, wow, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. And he said, all these I have kept from my youth. So he started on the right track, right? We know at one point he had no problem doing what he was supposed to do. He started out keeping the commandments for years from his youth. It's probably safe to say that he didn't mind doing them, right? He was a ruler. Nobody was forcing him to do them. He did them because he wanted to. But then something switched. He had a change in his attitude. He believed a little bit differently after that. The ruler was not willing to go through the transition. He wasn't willing to go from a ruler with great wealth to someone depending on Yahuah each day for his daily bread, right? Because when you pockets are large, you already know where your stuff's coming from. You can handle it yourself, right? Once you've given it all away, who do you have to depend on? You don't have a choice. He said sell all. He didn't say, hey, make a donation, give 10, 20%, keep the rest. He said give it all away. You've got nothing but me now. He was not willing to go through that. But by selling what he had, he would have been used by Yahuah to help Yah's children. Again, he wasn't told to just take it and give it to people who already had. He was specifically told to give it to those in need. He missed his chance to help. Again, remember, the transition is about usefulness to Yahuah, but the ruler made it about himself. And that's where he messed up. All right. So again, I said we talked about this because a lot of us are going through various transitions, right? Keep this in mind. As we go through transitions, every step will not be easy. I think this is like my fourth time saying this. I never, ever promise easy. I'm never going to promise you that anything in this walk is going to be easy. There are going to be parts where it's not enjoyable. It might hurt you physically or emotionally. You're going to have to go through something. At times along the way, we might feel that it's just not even worth the aggravation. But keep in mind that the transition isn't about you. If you focus on that, then it helps you get through those tough times. That it's not about you. It's for Yahuah. And because it's for his purpose, trust in him to get you through it, right? When you try to depend on yourself, when you get stuck on yourself and what you're going through, and you see it all about you, you're going to have a hard time getting through that process, all right? Remember, trust in him to get you through it, and it's for his purpose. Let's look at Jeremiah 29, verses 10 through 14. For thus says Yahuah, when 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will visit you, and I will fulfill to you my promise and bring you back to this place. Why? I know the plans that I have for you, declares Yahuah. Plans for peace and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. And then you will call upon me, may come and pray to me, and I will hear you. You will seek me and find me, and when you seek me with all your heart, I will be found by you, declares Yahuah, and I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all the nations and all the places where I've driven you, declares Yahuah, and I will bring you back to the place from which I sent you into exile. Do we believe in that? Do we believe that he wants to give us peace and not evil? That he has a plan for us? So if we focus on that as we're going through the process of the transition and the tough times, it helps us get through, right? All right, just a side note, I haven't found any proof that the ruler did not continue on the path and make it through his sad period. Perhaps he did eventually go and sell everything, but he definitely was not happy about it. So let's say He was given this instruction, right? And his initial reaction was, man, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. Time goes by. I'm ready to sell everything. And he goes, Jason, master, I'm ready. And Yahushua ain't nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found, right? So again, like I said earlier, when you get that call and you know what you're supposed to do in the transition, you got to act in it immediately. You may not get a second chance. Again, he uses us to be a barakat to his kingdom. And if you ain't going to do it, guess believe he will find somebody else who will. You might miss your chance. All right? Next. All right. But let's think about our own lives for a second. How many times have we begun a transition and didn't see it through to the end? Once, twice, maybe? Come on, let's see a show of hands, honestly. How many of us started a transition, whether we feel it was something the Most High led us to do, or just something we decided to do out of our own free will, but we ain't see it all the way through the end? You're a liar. 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 You say yes. I'm just making a point. All right, it should be both hands, both feet. We all done it. We've all done it. We've all done it, right? All right. So again, this is what we did in the past, right? For those of us who are in a transitional stage now, I'm encouraging you to see it all the way through. All right? See it all the way through. All right. So let's look at a role or a change in title. All right. Somebody was prophetic. 1 Samuel 16, 14 to 23. Now the Ruach of Yahuah departed from Saul, and a harmful Ruach from Yahuah tormented him. And Saul's servant said to him, Behold now, a harmful Ruach from Elohim is tormenting you. Let our master now command your servants who are before you to seek out a man who is skillful in playing the lyre. And when the harmful Ruach from Elohim is upon you, he will play it, and you will be well. So Saul said to his servants, Provide for me a man who can play well, and bring him to me. One of the young men answered, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, who is skillful in playing, a man of valor, a man of war, prudent in speech, and a man of good presence. And Yahuah is with him. Therefore Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, Send me David your son, who was with the sheep. And Jesse took a donkey, laden with bread and a skin of wine and a young goat, and sent them by David to his son Saul. And David came to Saul and entered his service. And Saul loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, Let David remain in my service, for he has found favor in my sight. And whenever the harmful Ruach from Elohim was upon Saul, David took the lyre and played it with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the harmful Ruach departed him. All right, so this is going to be about the transition of David. All right. So what role would we see David in at this particular junction as far as his relationship to Saul? It wasn't in the mic. It doesn't count. It was the right answer, though.
Servant.
He's in a servant role, right? All right. So at this point, Saul's king, and David's the hired help. He's the help. So that's where David starts off in relationship to Saul. Let's look at 2 Samuel, chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. It said, After this, David inquired of Yahuah, Shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah? And Yahuah said to him, Go up. And David said, To which shall I go up? And he said, To Hebron. So David went up there, and his two wives also, Ahinoam of Yisrael, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. And David brought up his men who were with him, everyone with his household, and they lived in the towns of Hebron. And the men of Judah came, and there they anointed David king over the house of Judah or Yehudah. When they told David, it was the men of Jabesh Gilead who buried Saul, David sent messengers to the men of Jabesh Gilead and said to them, May you be blessed by Yahuah, because you showed this loyalty to Saul your Adon and buried him. Now may Yahuah show steadfast love and faithfulness to you. And I will do good to you because you have done this thing. Now therefore let your hands be strong and be valiant, for Saul your Adon is dead, and the house of Judah has anointed me king over them. So what role is he in now? He started as a servant, and now he's a king, right? Was he the king over? Judah, right? Right. He's the king of the whole world. That's a question. He's the king of the whole world right now? Okay. Just Judah. Just Judah. But it's a transition. It's a significant transition, right? All right. So he's gone from the hired help to now being the king over Judah. 2 Samuel 5, 1 through 5. And then all the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron, where he's now king, and said, behold, we are your bone and flesh. In times past, when Saul was king over us, it was actually you who led out and brought in Israel. And Yahuah said to you, you shall be shepherd of my people, Israel, and you shall be prince over Israel. Wait. This was David's idea, or did somebody put it out there that it was going to happen? Kind of says Yahuah said, right? Okay. All right. Just making sure that, again, all these things we're going through, we got to keep Yahuah in it. All right. You shall be shepherd of my people, Israel, and you shall be prince over Israel. So all the elders of Israel came to the king at Hebron, and King David made a covenant with them at Hebron before Yahuah, and they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. At Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and at Jerusalem, he reigned over all Israel and Judah 33 years. All right, so the hired help is now king over all of Israel. But to get to this point, he went through about a 7-year transitional phase. He was trustworthy with, relatively little. He's a king of a whole kingdom. And then he was given even greater. But again, how long did it take for him to transition from king of Judah to king of all Israel? 7 years and 6 months, right? Again, that's a whole other lesson, Ak. But again, that's a long time, right? It took a long time to prove to himself, to those around him, to the Most High, that he could be trusted with the next step, right? So again, when we say, be encouraged, see the process all the way through, that might have been a 7, 8, 9, 10-year process, right? So keep that in mind as I say that. Again, there's going to be moments on a time frame that long, there's going to be moments where you lose focus, right? But don't just totally turn around and give up. All right, you go through 7 years or something, there's going to be tough times where you're going to have to say, okay, only Yahuah can get me through this. Guarantee it. That's just how life goes, right? All right, so again, another example, Matthew 25:14. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability, and then he went away. Down to verse 19. Now, after a short time, a long time, right? A long time. The master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. And his master said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. So that's similar to the David experience. You were king of Judah, and now I brought you somewhere else. But how long was the master away for? A long time. I think that's a point that's missed a lot of times when we go over this story. The master was away for a while, right? So just a thought to consider. What might it have taken to go from 5 talents to 10 more talents? Clearly 5 more talents, right? What might this person have to do to increase this? Because if you can flip your money and your talents and things you have in a day, let me know, because I want to be down, right? I want to be down.
He had to continue. He had to carry himself through each phase to get what he accomplished, and he had to be faithful. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But at the end of the day, your hand was up. Same on this one, boy. What might it have taken for him to go through to get from 5 talents to 5 more talents? He basically doubled it.
I mean, I was just gonna say a simple. He had to go through a transition.
Okay. We got a hand in the front. Did you have something?
I would think that he probably did some buying and selling, you know what I'm saying? Maybe bought something and flipped it got more money from it, kept doing that process.
All right, some buying and selling. He had to repeat the same process over and over again, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say something like he had to expound upon what he already had to increase it.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, we only know where his talents were over this long period when the master comes back, right? Is it safe to say that he might have taken these 5, got 5, and perhaps squandered it, lost a little bit? Like, man, I could take this 5. I got 10, I can get 12, right? Come on, I mean, let's think about it. Again, put it in the proper context. The master was gone for a long time. I doubt that he made this flip and just sat back and chilled on it until the master showed up, right? If you got 5 is 10, you probably were trying to get 11, 12, 15, let me get 20, right? But again, could have got discouraged, right? And just said, man, this just ain't gonna work. Look, man, you gave me 5, I got you 7. And just said, okay, when the guy comes, I got his 7. But he ain't stopped there. He didn't stop the process. He continued going forward until he could turn the 5 back into another 5, right? All right. So again, similar to David, his time as king was not all sunshines and roses. There was a long war between the house of Saul. This is 2 Samuel 3, verses 1. There was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. David grew stronger and stronger while the house of Saul became weaker and weaker, right? So this was like a little brief scuffle they had. He was constantly at battle throughout this process, right? Right. And again, he grew stronger. He had to go through some things to get there, right? Go ahead, Namana.
Oh, shalom, shalom, Maury. Maury in training. You were speaking. It's okay. You were speaking of like how he could have like flipped that 5 into 10, or he could have also taken up another skill, to also to produce what he had. Not only what he could have took up another skill, he could have also doubled the prices on what he had. To produce more. So correct. He had to, I yield.
Yep, those are all things you're gonna do. But the bottom line, it was a process, right? And it was work. It required effort on his behalf, for sure. Both of those were good examples of what he could have done. Thank you. All right. So again, there was a long war. He was constantly at battle when he was a king there. Right? He had to grow stronger and stronger over time. Right? Remember, King Saul was the man. So while he had to have a process of himself getting stronger, as well as for Saul to become weaker. Saul didn't become weak overnight, right? Constant battles throughout that process. All right. So again, just we're going to get to the close here pretty soon. It's going to be a brief lesson, just a discussion. It's not a full-blown lesson, just a discussion on transitions. So we all go through transitional phases in our lives, right? But we want to keep in mind that successful transitions are led by Yahuah, right? Be careful of making transitions that are not led by Yahuah or not led by his purpose, right? So I say that this way. Say you're an accountant by trade, right? You're going to remain an accountant. You're working at one firm, you might go to the next, right? Yahuah may not care which firm you work for. He may totally leave that choice up to you, right? But the things that you were doing for his behalf at that same firm, you best believe that you should have the intention of remaining and doing even more when you go to the next place, right? So it may not purposely be led by Yahuah which firm you go to, right? But it has to be led by his purpose. Now, with that being said, there are times where he's going to say, I need you to go from this firm to the next because there's people there I want you to witness to. But sometimes he may just say, hey, I was on Indeed and I saw this advertisement and make 10 grand more. I think I'm going to go for it, right? But again, the purpose, you're making that 10 grand more for yourself or so you can be useful to the kingdom. So you just, again, so there's different ways that it plays itself out in actuality, right? Sometimes he tells you to move. Sometimes he gives you the freedom to move. But if your intentions for moving are selfish, you're going to find yourself without a job or humbly going back to that place you were. It's like, hey, can I get my spot back? All right. Please, baby, please take me back. All right. Again, this doesn't mean that you can't change jobs or move to different towns or seek to move to different roles within the ministry, etc., right? But be sure that you consider the impact the move will have on your relationship with Yahuah and how the change will impact your use by Yahuah. He has to be at the forefront of your decision-making process, right? So when you're making your decisions and you're going from place to place, stage to stage, you got to understand why you're doing it. It has to be about him. If it's not, you're going to make a mistake somewhere along the line. Go ahead.
Okay, fine example. He will move you to where you need to go if you paying attention.
In many cases.
And when you get there, he has a impact on what you should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Now, we also got to remember that he gave us free will, he gave us intelligence, he gave us wisdom, right? So you're not always going to have a vision, you're not always going to have a dream. But you may know, hey, you know what? I got to guard the Shabbat. And the place I'm at keeps making it difficult. I might want to move. He's not going to come down in the vision and say, hey, you need to move. He's going to give you the ability to make a wise decision for yourself, right? So it work both ways. Again, if he does give you the vision, definitely follow the vision. But if you're so hesitant to move because you're waiting for this grand vision or enlightenment to happen, you may miss out on an opportunity that could have been a barakah for you. All right. So you gotta be a balance. And again, if you have a relationship with him and you're constantly in a prayer mode, you're constantly praising and worshiping, you're going to know whether it's him giving you a direction or just giving you the freedom to do something that could benefit you. But again, you got to keep your heart and your lab and your mind and your reasoning in the right place of why you're trying to do this. Also, remember, there is nothing wrong with seeking counsel before making the decision. Please do not let pride cause you to make a poor decision. All right? Again, let's be real here. I'm not saying that you share your vision or plan with any old body, right? Everybody don't need to know what's going on because some people don't give good advice, right? So I ain't going to share with them. But there's somewhere in your life, someone has shown to have wisdom in certain areas. Someone has shown to be able to give good advice. Seek that person out. Seek that person out. All right. Definitely run it past someone that has a proven track record of giving wise counsel. All right. All right. So again, we talked about this earlier. So when you commit to making that transition, be willing to go through the transitional phase. For example, let's just say whether Most High directed you to go or you just like to avoid cold weather, so now you're moving somewhere warm, whatever the reason is, right? You're moving to a new town. Perfectly fine, wise decision. You got your housing situated, you got your employment situated, everything's good. But you're going to have to get to know some new people, right? If you're the type that just wants to stay in your home, not be bothered by anybody, and you're in a town that you've never been before, it's probably not going to work out, right? You're going to have to be uncomfortable and do something that you're not used to doing, or it just ain't going to work. It's not going to work, right? So another example, somebody mentioned it earlier, a career change might require you going to get some formal training or an education, right? That could be going back to a 4-year college. That could be going back to get your real estate license, but that's going to take some training and some courses. You're going to have to put in some work. You're not just going to show up and say, hey, I'm cute, help me out. That's not how this works, right? That does not work, all right? So transitions will require you to put in some sort of work, but you will have to endure the process. It's not an overnight fix, right? It's not an overnight fix or an overnight thing that's going to happen to you. All right, let's see. Do I want to call on somebody like I would in my classroom or? All right, I'm gonna leave it open. Somebody just tell me, look, matter of fact, what was you about to say? You got the microphone in your hand. I ain't even asked the question yet. I wasn't gonna say that, but you was like, I want to call somebody. You stared. No, you could. All right, you volunteered. You volunteered yourself. All right. So, what have you gleaned from this so far? Give me 2 things that you've learned about transitions from the last 30 minutes I've been talking.
Okay. Well, first, transitions are something that may or may not necessarily come with a certain level of challenge. More than likely, they will. and that challenge is necessary for you to get from point A to point B. And that also in that transitional phase, there may be times where Yahuah is directly telling you where to go, directly giving you either vision or prophecy or whatever. There are other times where you may have some freedom in the areas that you're going to go to.
Now, say that you are directly told by Yahuah, I want you to go from here to there. He's going to make a way for you, right?
Can.
Now, if he gives you the freedom to choose and make a transition to something else, who's going to have to make the way?
Myself.
You're going to have to do a lot more in the process, right? That doesn't mean he's going to abandon you, but that means you're going to have more of a role to play.
Can.
I talked about this before. Like, life doesn't just happen to you. You got to happen to life sometimes, right? So you make these transitions, you got to be willing to put in the work to get through the transition. Good. I'm going to put my guest on the spot. All right, guest. Give me one thing that you could think of when it comes to transition. Matter of fact, you made a transition up here today, right? You don't come here often. So tell me something about transitions. I'm wireless. I'm good. I got him. Got his back. All right.
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom, shalom.
I guess the main thing that I take from what your lesson is here, that you have to be always mindful of the will of the Creator in your life, and to be obedient to that. And then it's always good to seek counsel from those who have wisdom. But the main thing is to seek the Creator in every move and not be self-serving.
Hallelujah. Perfect. Good. All right. There's no time for questions yet. The question slide ain't up. Don't be asking no questions. No, I'm just messing with you. Go ahead.
I have found out that transitions can be quickly.
In what sense?
Okay, my situation was a transition quickly. I went from DMV to another division, not knowing that everything was working out behind me. I didn't know until I was told that I was going to be moved from DMV over to the motor vehicle dealer board because they wanted me.
How long were you at the DMV?
38 years.
Before you moved to the next spot?
Yeah.
What's quick about that?
It was because I wasn't told.
Your notification was quick.
Yes.
But you going through the process and enduring and getting the skills you need that would cause them to seek you out was not quick at all.
I had the skills.
Exactly. You built them up. Yeah. And you proved yourself to them. They didn't just choose any old body just because. No, they chose you for a reason.
They just came 2 weeks later and told me that I will be removed from DMV over to there because the director wanted me over there.
All right, let me finish on this thought. So think about the different moments where Yahuah said you're about to do this, right? That person didn't necessarily get warning, right? They were living their life, they were carrying out a certain way, they were showing certain characteristics, and then Yahuah chose them, right? Job didn't get no warning. So again, the fact that you didn't get the warning about the transition doesn't mean it was a quick transition, right? Right? You had to react quickly, but the transition. Remember, it's two definitions of transitions according to Merriam-Webster, which my Ak didn't want to look up for me. It's okay. There's the transition itself, and then there's the transition process. So the process was quick. You ain't get a lot of notice, right? But the actual phase that you went through, the actual transition itself, you spent 33 years getting ready for that transition. Who else was online? Liara, go ahead.
Shalom. I was gonna say, well, you didn't technically say these words, but what I'm getting, and also through my experience, is to remain open and flexible in the process.
Yeah, that's definitely a wise thing to do, because again, if I got my mind set on how this transition is going to go, when I seek out counsel, am I going to listen? I got to be open to hear and enact the counsel that I get, right? And I got to be able to adjust and be like, you know what? I saw it going this way. Oh, it's not going to work that way. I may have to do something different, right? Otherwise, we get discouraged when the initial plan we had don't work out, and then we don't follow through with that transition. That's happened to us on many occasions, right? All of those that raised both hands and both feet that we tried transitions before and it didn't quite work out. Those are one of the reasons why. You got to be open sometimes, right? Now, certain things are you're not going to compromise. You're not going to be all willy-nilly, but you got to be able to understand that you may have to have a little flexibility and be able to roll with the wisdom that you get when you're making these plans. Good job. Now, Amanda, go ahead.
Shalom. I think also in transitions requires, patience. And I think that's something that's very, very important. And it comes to mind when when Sarai was told that she was going to have a child, at her old age. To be told that is just like, wow. But during a transition stage, it takes a lot of patience, especially when you're going through a long transition, a very hard transition, a very, stressful transition, when the Father is putting you here and he's changing you so you can be better if you're an A, to get you down the road to B, to be patient during that transition and to not give up and to continue to have faith, because sometimes transitions can take years. Sometimes transitions are very quickly. It just depends on what the Father.
Okay. All right. Time was up. That's all. Hold on. We had a question in the room or a statement in the room. Lamar had something to say.
All right. So just, kind of keeping in context with when you open this up, you talked about a name change.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes if we all believe that Yah gave us a name change, did you change into your name really quick? So again, some of the examples that you gave, Abraham, the father of many nations, was that quick?
Not at all.
But he accepted the name change.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, he had to start preparing himself to make that name change be a reality.
Right.
So so what I'm just simply getting at is for all of us that says, hey, we have a name change. If you know your name and you're walking in that, you're going to grow and mature more into it. And if you believe God gave you that name, no matter what you're going through, that name should kind of help you get through what you're getting through, because at the end of the day, he's still going to use you for that transition.
Right.
He has
right. Yep. Remember that the name has a purpose. We're not just a name for the sake of a name. You got to walk that out. And sometimes that involves a process, like you said, of learning what that actually is. Right? Okay, good. Y'all go ahead. Oh, wait. Hold on, sis. Let me interrupt you real quick. I had a thought on Naamana's statement. Then I will get back to you, I promise. You have to be patient throughout the process, but you still have to be actively in the process. You can't confuse patience with inactivity. Oh, I'm just waiting to hear, I'm just waiting for this. But meanwhile, you're not doing anything. That's not going to help the process go. All right. So yes, you do have to be patient, but be patient while you're actively enduring. All right. Go ahead, Liara.
I was just going to add to what I said earlier about being open and flexible, and Maury Lamad, Yahuah, and Akoti Nanamai, her response added to what I'm about to say. So sometimes in the process, we can become closed off or closed-minded when we feel that we're not adequate to fulfill that type of position that Yahuah is calling us to. And so things can come to distract us, and we become closed or we become stiff-necked. And so a part of accepting, even though we may not be mature right when Yahuah gives us the name, accepting it and allowing him to mature us and groom us in the name will be a benefit. And like Maury Lamont Yahuah said,
You can raise your hand again and finish your thought.
when we know the name, I'm sorry, did I get muted?
You did, but he unmuted you now, so you're good.
Okay, sorry. When we know the name, it does help us through the process. And that's a witness unto myself that when I was going through hard times, I was reminded by the function of the name, and that helped me to continue on the journey. And I yield.
Hallelujah. All right, again, we talked about that before. You don't want to rush the process. Most importantly, you don't want to skip steps, right? You don't want to skip the steps. And I yield. That's all that I had. Any questions?
Slika,
Wait,
are
wait,
you?
wait, 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 wait. You got to raise your hand. Wait to be called on. There was a question in the room ahead of you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Yahuah.
I got a question for Lamad. What does the word ibrit mean, like in Hebrew? What does it actually mean? I just want to make sure I have it correct in my mind what I'm thinking about.
It is what you have correct in your mind. it means a crossover.
Okay, all right, so it means crossover. All right, so while I was looking up the definition.
Don't be looking up stuff now at the end.
Well, hold on. I just wanted. I needed to redeem myself. So while I looked at the definition, I looked up the etymology for transition, and it does mean to cross over, and then it had me go to Hebrew, and then Hebrew means to cross over. So within that in itself, it is a transition.
Hallelujah.
So, yeah, that's all I got.
Total Rabbi. Let me just guess. Now I'm on this question. As of right now, I will not be continuing this topic next week. It is not the series. But go ahead and ask your question, Amana.
Well, okay. I just want to say this was a great lesson. It's something that I will definitely consider. I got a lot out of it, and I just wanted to say shalom to Mori Lamadyahu. I saw you come in, so I just want to say shalom. And and Toda for the lesson, Aki. It was a really good lesson.
Toda. Go ahead, Aki.
So I wanted to, now that we finished with the lesson, to hear what you was going to say about the noble woman, Sarah. Like, he asked you to expound on it, and you was like, you didn't want to mess with us.
Basically, he changed her name because she calls her a noble woman, right? Even though she made some mistakes,
Some questionable mistakes.
But at the end of the day, if you look at some of the things she did after she had Yitzchak, and even in the way that she dealt with Hagar, you'll see that there was some nobility there. But after that, she's been noble all the way to her death. After the fact, how she did with Pharaoh. I mean, there's a lot that she has done to even make her Ish certain ways.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. If that be the case, we shall close out. Who's closing us out?
Hallelujah. If our hearts and minds are clear, let us pray. Baruch atah Av Yahuah Eloheinu melech haolam. We love you, O Yahuah, our strength. Father Yah, we thank you for the word that we heard today. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather in your name, the name of Yahushua. Father, we ask for forgiveness, please, for all of our sins, transgressions, and iniquities. Father, please forgive us when we have tried to move in our own desires, our own, according to our own eyesight, according to our own flesh, according to our own pride and presumption, where we may have gone through the door that you didn't want us to open. Father, please forgive us now. We acknowledge our wrongdoing. We acknowledge how we have strayed, Father, and we ask that you would please restore us and that you would help us to transition into the right direction, be oriented on your path in tune with you, with your ruach, with your voice, Father, and that you would cleanse us with the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, Father, please. Father, I thank you for calling us by your great and mighty and set apart name, Father. I know for myself and for us here that we were all changed the moment that you called us by your name, Father. And with that, we have been transitioning towards your standard, Father. Thank you for allowing us to hear your word, Father, and changing our mindset day by day, Father, changing our attitudes to be more inclined to your will, your purpose, your desire, Father. I thank you. I thank you for writing your Torah upon our hearts, Father, and that it is a delight to do your will, Father. I thank you for just being here in our midst. I thank you for your hedge of protection, that you would continually have your hand over all of us here and those online and those are your people throughout the four corners of the earth, and that you would give us safe travels, that you would help us to transition according to your purpose always, and that when we transition, that no matter what happens, that we would be moving forward towards you in steadfastness and love and truth, Father. And whatever transition that we may be going for, that we may be going through, all esteem to Yahuah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuah. Baruch Hashem Yahuah. Hallelujah. Amen.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.